Hey, it's Kazimoto, and I just thought that since I had finished all of the Ghibli films, most of the Takahata, most of the Miyazaki films in Ghibli's history, that I would do a quick little tier list for you guys and just let you know what my thoughts on them are. You could probably as well go on my Mao video and see the ratings I gave some of these, and probably some are a bit out of date or have switched this way or that way given time, but I think it should be interesting. So we've got our standard SA, B, C, D, F, but S+, because there is one that stands out above the rest. It's almost perfect. But I just think it'd be interesting to take a look at some of these, and I think some of these have changed over time, I feel like, definitely. So let's start with Porco Rosso. So I think with Porco Rosso, it used to be this, like, hipster choice for the best, like, Ghibli film. If somebody told you, like, their favourite was Porco Rosso, you should just, like, give up hope, because they're just going to spew some nonsense at you about, like, how 1920s anime is like the greatest thing that ever happened, or they're going to recommend some obscure stuff you've never heard of, like Nitabo. But Porco Rosso is quite good, but I don't think it's fantastic. B is like B should be, according to this, like the average, but S and S+ are basically the same, so I think it's kind of like an average film, so I'll give it a C. I always see people quote the better to be a pig than a fascist or something like that. It's very strange. On Poppy Hill, this is the Goro Miyazaki one, and I think the first 2/3 of this film are really good, but I think the final third is like, I remember being strange. I think it has something to do with like the image you see here, but that first like couple of thirds, acts if you will, real good, but I think that's also a C tier. I think the last third dragged it down, in my opinion. Laputa, I think, was like the first Ghibli that I watched. I think I watched it with a friend, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. The ending in particular, but everything leading up to it I wasn't too sold on. I haven't watched it in ages. Maybe I should give it a rewatch, but I remember it being okay. I think I'll give it a B. I think that's the right place for it. The Wind Rises, this used to be like one of my favourite films of all time. I watched it like 3 times in a month. So good. I understand like it's a bit problematic, and I get that. It definitely does have those aspects to it. And I've looked into it, and I think I'm fine with how it is. And overall, I think I'd give it like an A. Ocean Waves. Ocean Waves is interesting because this was like made by a bunch of younger or inexperienced Ghibli staff trying to like see if they could quickly make like a Ghibli movie, not necessarily of Ghibli quality, but like a Ghibli film in a short time frame, and this is what they ended up doing with. And I think story-wise, I hate it so much, but like aesthetically, it has some pretty nice, choices to it. You often see it in like those like vaporwavy style anime gifs that you see on like Vaporwave Brazil or something like that. But I think overall it's like a D. Slightly, below average in a couple of aspects, but still, yeah. The cat returns. I watched the cat returns before I watched Whisper of the Heart, so I had no idea about who the Baron was, but I kind of just went with it. And I hate this movie so much. Whenever I see like praise for it, I just have to like turn off the thread on Twitter or ignore it or just scrolling by. I can't stand this film. This is an F tier. I don't think it's the worst, but this is an F tier film. When Marnie Was There, I remember this film came out when I was like still in like high school, and people were losing their minds, I feel like, for this. But then I don't remember anyone talking about it, and I don't think the consensus has been that like it's a great film. This is by the same guy that did Mary and the Witch's Flower, and I think Mary and the Witch's Flower, while flawed, is still better than this. I think it's just the story. I was real snoozing on the story. Maybe I should give it a rewatch. I know this is popular on like LGBT Twitter, and that's great. Maybe it's just not for me then. D tier. The Goro Miyazaki movie. It's the war film. It's based off like a fantasy book. I don't know if they were going to do all these, but there's definitely, when you watch it, you can feel like the pace and some aspects to it are like kinda off. But there are some interesting scenes. I think overall though, by the end, I was just losing the will to live. So I'll give it an F. I feel like, Tales from Earthsea, that's its name. I think that's like not even a hot take to put it there. Grave of the Fireflies. Grave of the Fireflies, I think, is like everyone's example of like that hard-hitting, emotionally, resonant World War II, Japan story, and I get that. I think it's been a bit undoed in my rankings due to In This Corner of the World, which is just one of the greatest films ever made, no question about it. But I think Grave of the Fireflies is still like an emotionally resonant film. I don't think it's like fantastic, but I think it's like fine. I think a lot of issue with it, and this is just going to sound like me, praising In This Corner of the World. A lot of the issues of the film for me definitely do get brought up by watching In This Corner of the World. I definitely think this film is like super depressing and not like, I know it's meant to be depressing, but I just think there are some aspects to it where it's infuriating to watch. But I think it's still really good though. The opening scene still gets me. That part where she's swinging on the bar, incredible. I'm gonna give it a B. But it's like a low B. It's like a Anthony Fantano light 7. Howl's Moving Castle. I remember this might have been the very first Ghibli I watched. I'm not a massive fan of it right now. The animation on the castle is quite neat and it looks quite nice. I just remember I just didn't like the character being this old haggardy, witch. And that's on me, but I just don't remember it all too well, or like remember it fondly. Like I can remember some of the older stuff about Laputa, but I can't really remember much about Howl, so I'll give it like a C, I reckon. That's probably the right place. Arietta. No, Arietta I think is meant to be like a kind of Irishy folk tale-y based off the like Thumbelina stuff, and I was really interested by it because, with Ghibli movies you tend to get, human-sized characters. I know that Ponyo is like another example, or The Cat Returns and stuff like that, but you don't really get that kind of in-depth Ghibli look in the ground. And so I was really excited, and then I think the story and relationship between Arietta and the main dude, I just wasn't a massive fan of. But I still think that it's like really interesting to watch, so maybe I think on a rewatch it'll improve, but I think I'll give it a C and I'll move Howl's into D tier. So Kiki's Delivery Service, let's not front around. Kiki's Delivery Service is the greatest Miyazaki movie and the greatest like Ghibli movie, without question. Better than Mononoke, better than Spirited Away, better than Nausicaa, better than all of that. There's so much to love about this film. It's such a lovely film. It incorporates all of the aspects about Miyazaki that people love. He came in to save it the last time. It's based off a story. And I think, I could talk about this movie for ages. I was so upset. I watched the Ghibli cast for it, and I just don't remember it being as in-depth as I would have liked it to have been. But, other people's opinions, they don't catch things, I catch things, I don't catch things, they catch things. But Kiki's is one of the greatest films ever made. Whisper of the Heart. So Whisper of the Heart, this was made by the dude that like tragically passed away before he would like made more films. He was kind of meant to be the like next Miyazaki, in very large air quotes, back when that was like a thing they were worrying about. And Whisper of the Heart's quite nice. I think perhaps it's gotten more attention now because of its inclusion of Country Roads, which is kind of picked up as like a meme song, if you will. But Whisper of the Heart is still like real good, and even like as a love story. I don't really like love stories, but I was like, Whisper of the Heart, let's go, real good. B tier, not A. Only Yesterday. This gets a lot of love, I think, in kind of alty movie scenes as a Takahata film. I think that's his kind of style, but I don't like the middle section of this film. I think if you just go to that part where she's in the car with this other dude, I just lost the will to live. I was like, I wish I was watching Wolf Children. They did this whole country stuff better. But I like the going back and forth between the, the young girl and the current girl. It's quite nice, but I think this is like a D tier for me. Totoro. Totoro is quite interesting. I think in anime circles, if you said that Totoro was your favorite like Ghibli movie, you'd get laughed out. But if you go to like film circles and say you really love Totoro and it's like one of your favorite movies, it's strange. Everyone just loves Totoro. And I like Totoro as well, but I don't like the final third. But I think that first 2/3 is like super amazing, super good. And that's why I think it gets a lot of love. Also, that's a fantastic film, but I think it's like a B-tier film now. Pom Poko. Pom Poko is a slapper. That scene where they're just like driving around at the parade and like they transform into stuff and then they go to work and stuff, slapper, great. It was Agretsuko before Agretsuko was Agretsuko. But that first third and all that kind of stuff about like the other factions and whatnot, real snoozer, was not for me. But I think it's like a B tier. Actually, no, it's a C tier. It's a C tier Ghibli. It's quite good, but not fantastic. Neighbor Yamada's. Neighbor Yamada's is like a sketch comedy show almost, it feels like. These really well animated scenes of like these family interactions. It's lovely. Takahata's like most cheerful film, it feels like. That part where they're on the carpet just singing along, brilliant. But I don't think there's too much more to that, and there are a couple of ones that like I'm not as big of a fan on, so I'll put it in like the C tier, because it's good. I wouldn't watch it again in a hurry, but it's good. Ponyo. I think Ponyo is like a classic example of like the Digibro effect in action, because like Digibro claims that that K-On! Before he kind of arrived on the scene was kind of slandered as this moe shit, and it's true. I mean, you can watch that Gigak video where he just says that it's just girls drinking tea, and it's much more than that. And then he did his 2 big videos on it, and slowly he's been changing the discourse, and I feel like he's been trying to slowly change the discourse on Ponyo, which I can respect. I'm always trying to move the Kiki needle further. But I watched this partly because he sort of said, hey, look, it's good. You know, he said K-On! Was good. I started watching it. I really like K-On! I watched Ponyo. I don't like Ponyo at all, really. It's not the like childish story. I can tolerate that. You know, I love that kind of stuff. I just really didn't like the 2 main characters. And I think the animation is really nice. And I think I watched the one where Liam Neeson is like the bad dude or whatever. But I just couldn't get into it. I think this is one of the worst Ghibli films made. Not the worst, but it's an F tier. Princess. This was the last Ghibli I watched, actually, because I had them all saved somewhere and I watched them all. And this is kind of like an old folktale. I think if I was like, this kind of feels like a movie you would show to like a class of like 12-year-olds, like 11-year-olds, if you were learning about folktales and stuff, because it's got real good animation. But you do kind of get stuck in this story of, you know, folktale-y stuff. But I think it's really good. I think it's like a B tier. I know some people who say this is like the greatest Ghibli film, and I don't fault them. I think maybe if I had like watched this at a different time, or if I rewatch it again, I might think that it's better than it is, but I think it's like a B tier. The Holy Trinity of Ghibli films, we've got 3 of the like greatest, so let's just get this out of the way. Mononoke is an S tier. Mononoke is a bit edgy, which I think is to its detriment in wider film discussions, but anime people love that kind of stuff. They love like Elfen Lied, they love Future Diary, they love that kind of stuff. And Mononoke is just like the greatest like epic sort of Ghibli film, if you will. Kiki's is kind of like contained, but Mononoke is this like expansive, you know, journey. And it's got some really dark aspects to it. I mean, the film opens with that like corrupting force scene, and then there's that whole scene where the leader of Iron Town has that massive rifle. It's crazy, but it's brilliant. I think it's still one of the greatest movies ever made. Not the best Ghibli, but like second best maybe. Spirited Away. If you had asked me like at certain periods in the last couple of years, I would have flip-flopped between saying like an S and an A, and I think when I first watched it, I was like, this is like the greatest movie ever made. And then like a couple of months later, I was like, I don't know about that one. And I kind of go back and forth between that, but I think in sort of recent memory, I think I'm going to put this in S. I think it is like maybe the 3rd best out of all these. I definitely think it's better than Wind Rises, and it's better than Nausicaa, and we'll see where that gets placed, but I just think it's so instrumental as well in anime culture, and sort of anime and film culture as well, so it's not like it's, you know, it doesn't stand on its own legs, it's amazing, but just that to it makes it, you know, immediately S tier. And then Nausicaa. Nausicaa's A. I think I should just get that out of the way so I can talk about it a bit more. I think Nausicaa's really great, but I do remember it dragging in a couple of aspects, but the designs, the look, the explosions, the monsters, oh, it's so good. And I just think Nausicaa was like the Miyazaki film in a way. I mean, it was based off a manga that he wrote, but it was like the pinnacle Miyazaki film. If you want to show someone what like a Miyazaki film is all about, you'd show them Nausicaa probably. And I'll talk about Castle of Cagliostro because I kind of include it, kind of don't. I think Cagliostro is like a B tier film, maybe even a C. It flip-flops between these two. I really like some of the car chases and like designs in that, but I'm not a massive Lupin fan. So I think I'd put it in anywhere between these 3. And yeah, I think that does it. I hope this isn't too... I think this is like a mild to medium take. I don't think there are any like opinions that'll set the world on fire here. Maybe the Ponyo one, maybe the Howls one, maybe the Only Yesterday one, but other than that, like, is anyone really going to front with me that I say like Mononoke and Spirited Away are the best? Probably not. Well, Kiki's is the best, but like 2nd and 3rd best? I don't think so. Anyways, thanks for sticking with the channel. I'm working on it. I can trust you that. Maybe it doesn't show, but I'm definitely working on stuff behind the scenes and whatnot. And I appreciate you watching. If you've got any like comments or you just want to like slander me in the comments section, be my guest. I mean, that's why I put this stuff out here, is so that you can find reasons to like not take my opinion seriously. But other than that, I've been Kazimoto. Adios.